Welcome to this week's episode of TAC Tic Talk. We're here with ChiroHealth's Swiss Army knife, Kristi Hudson. Kristi, we've come to know you over the years at these various seminars because you seem to be just involved with every aspect of chiropractic at this point. So welcome to the show, Kristi.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, we're practically family at this point after all.
I know. I'm wondering where the applause is, quite frankly, Kristi. I was like...
It will happen. It will happen in the post-production. So at this point, you've really been involved with various different areas. Of course, your participation began with ChiroHealthUSA, and so that has evolved. Now, can you tell us a bit about what ChiroHealthUSA offers the chiropractor in the field? How can they take advantage of some of the services you offer, and what kind of services do they offer?
So ChiroHealthUSA offers chiropractors a very unique opportunity. It really just solves the problem, especially with the cost of everything has just gone up tremendously. And our doctors aren't the only ones feeling that impact. Our patients are too, and they're really looking for affordable options to be able to have access to chiropractic care because, let's be honest, the price of everything becomes a barrier these days. And with healthcare being one of the most regulated industries within the U.S., I mean, it's right up there with the environment and financial services. We're very limited on the discounts that we can offer. At the very, very most, you can offer about a 15% discount to your patients. And in all honesty, if I'm having to come in to see my chiropractor, if I'm coming in to see Dr. Joe 2 times this week because of an acute issue and maybe 2 times next week, a 15% discount did not make that affordable. ChiroHealthUSA gives those doctors and patients the opportunity to discount above that 15% so the patients have more access to affordable care. So the doctors are not violating any of those state, federal rules and regulations, and the patients get access to affordable chiropractic care. But what we really try to do is help doctors implement discounts that are going to also help them to maintain profitability. Because what we end up working with are doctors who've not raised their fees in 7 to 10 years. They are not really sure what market value is. So we're going to help you with a fee analysis. And we never tell anyone what you should be charging, but we're going to show you what's the market rate for healthcare services by your zip code for all healthcare providers, because chiropractors should be getting paid the same as everybody else in healthcare. And then we help to set that level of discount. I mean, our average chiropractic office sees an increase in revenue of on average 20% within the first 90 days. And they implemented affordable chiropractic care to reach more patients. I mean, it's mind-blowing.
Oh, that is phenomenal. So now, when did this whole project begin? This has been over 10 years, I think now, right?
Oh, yeah. So Dr. Foxworth actually started ChiroHealthUSA back in 2008. And yeah, he has the entrepreneur spirit of all of the chiropractors in this profession. I mean, Dr. Joe, you can't just have one job, could you?
No way, no way. We gotta stay plugging, right? Exactly. So
That's right.
and you want to help as many people as possible, but there is an impediment, and especially across the United States with laws and providing any kind of free care it's a huge red flag for, especially when you're billing insurance and whatnot. So it sounds like you solved that problem. Are you in all the states then?
So we are in 48 of 50 states. So the only 2 states that we are currently not in is Rhode Island and the state of Washington. But we are in all the other 48 states.
So you were saying too, Dr. Foxworth, it's a chiropractor. So when he started, he was running a clinic. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Dr. Foxworth's story is great, and we've carried it in the American Chiropractor magazine in the past about his background. And of course, Kristi's writing regularly with us as an author on all of these topics, because as she travels across the United States, sharing this message of what ChiroHealth offers, as well as some other things that we'll get into in a bit, she's able to have perspectives that are very unique. So we appreciate having you, and anyone listening right now needs to be sure to look for articles in the future.
Well, Dr. Joe, that's why I wanted to jump in and say, because I know we've covered at least how we know Kristi, originally through ChiroHealthUSA, but now Kristi, you are pretty much on a speaker platform anywhere and everywhere in chiropractic, whether it's at the Chiro Congress or at a state association or, some of these major events that we have in
The
chiropractic.
steering
So
committee for the
this,
strategic
what, yeah. So
alliance
tell us a little bit
for the plan.
now. I mean, I'm ready to put a microphone and attach it to you wherever you go.
That's the Swiss Army knife. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
Christy? You don't get that label just willy nilly.
So tell us a little bit, Kristi, about what your latest engagements are that you're attending, and even this past year. I mean, you've got such a breadth of information to share with chiropractors. What do you find is, I guess, the most useful for them, but also just newsworthy and interesting?
Wow. I mean, there's so much. That is such a broad topic of things to talk about. Um, I don't even know.
Go.
I was like, I don't even know how many events I've attended this year. I do know that I'm gone all the way till Thanksgiving for the rest of the year, attending multiple events. Sometimes I'm gone for 10 to 12 days at a time. Um, and I do get to see some of the most amazing things. Some of it's like kind of like regional things that are happening that are legislatively, or I get to see, new breakthrough technologies. I get to be a part of cutting edge research that is taking place. Um, I think I do have a very um, unique opportunity in where I stand and how I participate in the chiropractic profession. My very first chiropractic adjustment didn't even come until after I started working for Dr. Ray Foxworth. So, and I was his personal assistant, and then I helped in the clinic, and I became a patient, and then I became this advocate for the profession, and then I volunteered for everything under the sun. Um, and so I do. I get to see a lot of really interesting things. I think the most um, probably what I've been most involved with though this year has been the strategic plan for the chiropractic profession. And a lot of it heavily impacts US chiropractors, but not just US, because we do recommend we do um work with chiropractors all over the world. In fact, one of our work group chairs for the plan is Dr. Heidi Havoc out of New Zealand, and she's heading up the research aspect of it. And some pretty incredible things that I've been there at the table while these things are coming out is we've developed this data lake for chiropractic research, and it's been just unbelievably incredible like for chiropractic, and then only to find out the impact it's going to have on healthcare because nobody else has what we built at all. And so we have all of these electronic health record companies in the US who are going to be sending de-identified patient information into our data lake. And so Heidi will be able to go in there and query. So let's just say we wanted chiropractic research on the benefits of chiropractic care for children, which would be hugely important right now in, say, like Australia. That's a huge topic of conversation where they don't want to allow chiropractic care for children under the age of 2. So let's say I
Hmm.
want to do the benefits of chiropractic care for children under the age of 2. She's able to go in there and query. And in chiropractic research, being that you're from a chiropractic family, one, there's not a lot of it. Number two, when we do have research, our patient pools are not as big as those in the rest of healthcare. But now we have access to millions of patient records. So when she
Hmm.
pulls that, it's going to pull every patient under the age of 2 whose records are in there, see
Hmm.
their diagnosis, see what the treatment plan was, see what those outcomes were. And according to Heidi, what would take years, years to produce in research, they're going to be able to do in months at such
Hmm.
a massive rate like we've never seen before. And a lot of the issues that we have in chiropractic worldwide have to do with the fact that we just don't have as much research as other fields in healthcare. There are approximately 125,000 healthcare researchers worldwide, and there are less than 100 who are chiropractic researchers. So that's
Hmm.
probably the biggest thing that we have worked on. We're about to beta test the data lake for the very first time in the next couple of months. And we'll do some beta testing with that over the next probably 6 to 12 months before it will be ready for other researchers to be able to begin doing that chiropractic research. And that I think everything that we do in chiropractic, every battle that we face, everything that we're trying to accomplish worldwide, it all starts with research.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sounds like an incredible opportunity. Of course, this is the gift of artificial intelligence, right? So, and just the increasing capacity of data. Now, how do researchers interested in participating in this data lake project, how can they interface with the data lake information?
So right now it has an advisory board, and they'll come up with the criteria for how, and then they'll start putting out um, the the information. It'll be on the probably on the website in about a year at
Hmm.
chiropracticfuture.org. So, but we are a good year to 18 months away before we can even open it up. But there will be like an application and a vetting process. We are going
Hmm.
to protect this information, so it will be strictly for chiropractic research.
Well, that sounds very interesting. Now, that's with the strategic plan initiative, right?
Yes,
And so you're now going to be entering next year. You're going to be the chair of the strategic plan, is my understanding.
I am going to be the chair of the
Holy,
strategic plan.
I know you're in like all sorts of other projects too. Can you just tell a bit? Because now it sounds like they've been working to be sure that there's no kind of authoritarian kind of takeover of this group, right? So that's how you voiced it to me in our previous meetings, that there's this kind of method of like rotation associated with leadership. Can you just explain a bit about that so that people who are listening to this, when they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to share my information with this group, they feel a bit more comfortable, or even how they could participate, right?
Sure. That's what everybody always is like, oh, great, another organization. But it's very autonomous. It is strictly it is a board of volunteers that is strictly for the betterment and future of the chiropractic profession. So, like, even the goals of the profession of the strategic plan came from surveys that were completed from chiropractors around the world. And there is, you have to be nominated to sit in a as a chair or vice chair of a work group, and those chairs are the ones who sit on the leadership board. There are 4 at-large members that get voted into those positions, and no person can hold. I mean, each term is for 2 years, with the exception of the vice chair and the chair. So nobody can like kind of like hijack the board, and there's a rotation
Mm-hmm.
over time of how everybody spins off.
And then,
Um,
did this start out from the Cairo Congress?
So actually, it started with the Chiropractic Summit
Uh-huh.
in 2019 at our summit meeting at FCA National.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were working on a project of what does the chiropractic profession need today. It was Dr. Tom Clapp from Michigan, who was also the representative from Life University, who said, "Our we need a strategic plan." And everybody who sits in the summit absolutely agreed. But we also agreed that the representatives, which the summit y'all also are participating in, they're the
Mm-hmm.
leaders within the chiropractic profession that make up vendors, they make up schools, all of the alphabet soup organizations of chiropractic
Mm-hmm.
are in there. And we all agreed that yes, this was something that needed to happen, but even with the reach of everybody in there, this was a much bigger project than the summit itself could handle. And so Cairo Congress said, well, let's take this to another level. Let's see if we can do this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so in that 2019 at the Cairo Congress convention, they had a special session where over 300 leaders from across the country came together to say, if we did a strategic plan, what would this look like? Um, Organizations like Power Health has a strategic plan. I'm sure y'all have a strategic plan. You know, everybody has a strategic plan, but for our profession to say we need a strategic plan to help our profession is it's kind of an unusual thing. Others have done it. PTs did it, but it's just not very common, and it's a heavy, heavy lift. So the summit kind of passed it on to Cairo Congress. Cairo Congress spent a year and a half to 2 years with volunteers from around the country that were not necessarily part of Cairo Congress, and working out those details of what that looked like, making sure that it was an independent organization. And then the initial board was set up, and at that point, it became its own independent entity.
Well, I think it's in great hands considering, and fortunately it's just for 1 year, your term, because I know that you've already put tremendous amount of effort into it because we've been talking about this for, since it probably started. So the Chiro Congress is the former Congress of Chiropractic State Association. So if anyone out there is confused, that was the updated name there. And now, Kristi, it's very interesting your role with that group. And considering the start with CHUSA, right, or the Chiropractic Health USA. And then now I understand you also have been involved somewhat with a defense platform associated with Cairo Armor. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that? That because I mean all of this kind of is working together. I mean this is clearly why there's motivation to bring forth new information. Uh, of course, throughout the history of chiropractic, but of course also with all those that you're dealing with as you try to help them as they face issues, right? So talk about that, please.
I would love to. So, Chiro Armor is another company that we own with Dr. Scott Munsterman and Dr. Steve Conway. So, what we found is I love talking about compliance. I love rules and regulations. It's part of my first child type A personality. I need to know where my boundaries are. And I love rules. Most chiropractors do not love rules. You're rebels. So, I go around the country and I'm teaching people how to be more compliant. But the reality is that you know, Dr. Joe, you went to chiropractic school not because you wanted to do paperwork and not because you wanted to be told, here's your little box and you have to stay in
Mhm.
here. You went to chiropractic school. Your brother went to chiropractic school because y'all wanted to treat patients. You wanted to impact patient lives. So anything that takes you away from patient care is just basically a thorn in your side and it makes you grumpy, all of y'all grumpy. So when I was teaching all this compliance stuff, everybody was like, well, great. So now I'm going to work this 12-hour day. I'm going to spend 5 hours treating patients and the rest of it doing my documentation. And now I've got to do compliance when all I wanted to do was treat patients. So we started a company that would take over compliance for you. We take over, do all the internal auditing. In the event that you have an audit or something come up, we are your compliance officer. We handle everything. So it does not disrupt your patient care. We handle all of the training for your team. Everything is done online. And this is the other aspect of it. Chiropractic offices are busy and it takes a team to make it run smoothly. And just like you don't have time to sit there and go and watch another hour-long presentation about HIPAA compliance or whatever, OSHA or whatever, neither does your team. So we were able to break them up into 5-minute modules. So yeah,
Mhm.
you'll get it done and you're going to get it all in, but you're going to get it in 5 to 7 minutes at a time. Take a quick quiz. Yes, I understand what I'm supposed to do and move on. So when you have 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, you're getting it all in and we're tracking all of that information. But we're doing
Mhm.
the internal audits, we're feedback, giving you feedback. And so now instead of spending a couple hours a week working on this or worse, giving it to a team member that you have who hasn't been properly trained on compliance, we're doing it. We're the experts and we're communicating with you once a month about
And
here's
the
where we are.
rotation of those team members, I mean, that is all the time too. So
Oh,
you would you help bring those people along, or how does that work? I mean, how do you interface with the clinic then?
so it's Dr. Scott Munsterman is actually the person who interfaces with the clinic
Hmm.
the most. He is the official compliance officer for your practice and all things. So he
Hmm.
does all of that internal training and auditing and education with everybody. And there are different levels. Like you can do completely hands off, let Scott handle everything. Or you can do it where Scott is basically training you or somebody on your team to be the compliance officer. But the reality is, if you think about your hour, like how much you make an hour when you're
Hmm.
treating patients. And then you times that by how much time it takes you to work on compliance. Is it worth it
Right.
to spend time on compliance versus having Scott do it for you?
Well, so what's the difference on the plans? Is it like hundreds a month versus thousands, or an annual, like just to have a ballpark range? Because to me, I hear this stuff and I'm like, do it, like just take it all. Like it
Yeah,
sounds,
it used to be we wanted to like struggle at the beginning, but now we're like outsource if we can.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know why everybody just outsource like all the things that you have to, so you can just spend time chit chatting with the patients and having fun with them. So
Hmm.
it does vary. It really depends on. There's a lot of things that factor into pricing. It's a monthly
Hmm.
price, and it
Right.
can be in the hundreds, and it could be the thousands, depending on the type of practice you have. Like if you're like a one doctor, you
Yeah.
know. small town America, like it's just you and one staff person, then
Yeah.
that's probably one price versus if you're a multidisciplinary practice with 5 locations and 50
Yeah.
doctors.
Right.
So
Mhm.
there's a lot that factors into the price. But we also say, hey, by the way, we're auditing this. And
Yeah.
so this is how much money you're losing every time you spend an hour working on compliance versus treating
Right.
your patient.
Well, that's a very positive way to frame it. We're also saving you jail time if you're just doing things, you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
so,
that is
I
so
mean,
true.
I like the more money, but I also, I know there are some out there thinking, am I doing it right? So that's a very good. Now, how do
Well, and
people
that,
learn more about that, uh,
So
Kristi?
you can actually go to chiroarmor.com, and you can schedule. So it's really great because we will actually tell you how to do your compliance yourself. You don't have to use us. You can even buy your training from us and do it online if you want to. But you just do a gap analysis and Dr. Scott will do an audit with you, like a quick audit, and he'll just say, here's where your gaps are in your compliance program. And the reality is, it's just compliance gets in the way of patient care. And so doctors are just like, I don't want to deal with it. So don't let us deal with it.
so Chiro Armor, spell armor for all of us.
ARMOR. It's the Southern accent, I know.
Yeah, because I was like, is it like arm or thyroid? No, no.
Uh-huh.
That's
C A
it's a
R M
specific
O
joke for a
R.
couple nerds, but yeah. So
There's no U in the armor.
There is
It's
no,
ARM.
now, where are you right now, Kristi?
I am in Mississippi for a couple more hours.
See, now all the people out there know someone in Mississippi if they ever want to, visit. I'm not
Oh,
sure that's going to happen.
yeah. There's
Although
nothing here.
I've
Mhm.
seen the barbecues you guys Ray puts on every year. I mean, like it looks like it would be a good reason to go, but it seems like your whole work group is a family, which I really admire, and we work with our family, and so when you have that kind of tight nucleus, I think good things come out of it. So
Oh my gosh, we are totally a family. It's really interesting. In the last month, we have celebrated. So Friday will be my 14-year anniversary with CHUSA. We just celebrated Heather's 12, Diane's 10. But we have a young lady who's been with us for a year. But most of the people who work for us have been with us for 7 years or more.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
great,
That's a
yeah,
that's a
that's
testimony in and of itself. Now I wanted to say, as we're so positive, I wanted to hear the horror stories, like Dr. Joe mentioned. Like the, I want to hear, because some people don't think about the benefits of utilizing somebody's service until you have to remind them, okay, what are the downsides if you don't get somebody who knows what they're doing? And everybody knows, as their clinics grow, you're trusting a lot in your staff to delegate out to a lot of things. So tell us
so
just a couple scenarios, maybe, or one or two that really stand out to you, Kristi, that kind of drive home where you guys could fit in.
So I will say that the one of the best horror stories that I can tell, and it's just because like I understood the mentality of what this doctor was thinking when he did what he did. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and again, it was a compliance issue. It had to do with offering eSTEM as a therapy in his office, and
Mm-hmm.
and some insurance companies cover it, some don't. Medicare doesn't cover it, and so it was just an important part of his treatment plans he was offering in his practice. And so he just decided that he was just going to make it easy and more accessible. So he wasn't going to charge anybody at all for this service. It was just going to be completely free.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't going to bill insurance. Wasn't going to charge his self-pay patients. It's just going to be free. Well, the problem with that is that every service in your office that you provide has a value. And so
Mm-hmm.
it violated a number of federal rules and regulations as well as provider agreements that he had with insurance companies. Um, so he ended up being audited and he got a really, really good deal. I will say this. The entire audit investigation took about 3 years. And in the end, he ended up paying like $89,000 in fines and penalties, which, by the way, was significantly less than what he probably would have paid had he not had such an incredible attorney on his side. But to get the other aspect of that was he also didn't have to admit guilt when it was all said and done. And why that is so important is because had he admitted guilt, he would have immediately been kicked out of every U.S. federal healthcare program. And then within a couple of months, probably every other third-party insurance. So it's one thing for a doctor to say, I don't want to see this insurance company, or maybe I don't want to get involved in the insurance game. It's a completely different situation that if within overnight your entire practice has changed with and you weren't planning for it, because that's the kind of thing that will destroy a practice. But I will say that it cost him about $250,000 in attorney's fees, to defend himself in that situation. And so we always tell everybody, my fee is my fee and nothing is free. Like, no free services, because if he had just charged a nominal fee for those services, he actually would have made over $90,000 in that 3-year period of time. Instead, it cost him 90,000 plus $250,000, a lot of stress in his life.
Well,
Um,
I'm just going to jump in and say, Kristi, that should be one of your ads or an article or both, because honestly, I don't think people are aware of that. Really, are they? Do you find that people are aware of this?
like, here's the thing is that if you're audited, you're not going to talk about it. I use it in all of my presentations, and I may have included it in an article or two. I always share that story. I mean, it did
Mhm.
make national headlines. If
It might
you're,
have been in the yellow pages. We might we might have reported in the yellow.
you might have,
Everyone
this
knows
was
what.
a couple of years ago. Um,
Mhm.
and I just, it seems so silly when you think about it. Like,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
silly. It's like, wow, you gave something
Well,
away for free and now it costs you all of this money.
Well, the
Right.
chiropractor's like, I just want to help people. It helps me do the adjustment. But then, he
Yep.
gets the pushback from the patients. I can't afford it, right? But then he's got these agreements, and it is in the law in most states, Jacqueline, like inducements and these other types of things. And which is exactly why, if people are giving discount care, something like ChiroHealthUSA is absolutely necessary. So if they're doing that, they got to
Well,
they got to follow up right now and start
Mhm.
using it.
they absolutely do. And I was going to say, like, here's the crazy thing. Like I said, that 89,000 some change was a deal because it was like a kickback issue, because it looks like he's giving kickbacks to his patients. They keep coming in because they're getting the service for free. So he's incentivizing them. It was an inducement issue. It was the craziest thing. And when you add up all the fines, when you look at what those potential fines could be under each one of those
Mhm.
things, it could have been in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, there's even some crazier ones, like my other story I tell everybody. If you get a records request, I don't care if it's late. I don't care if they randomly request the record of a day. You open it up, look at your notes, and think, oh my gosh, did my evil twin show up this day? What is this? Like, I don't even know. It's like, it does not matter. It can be wrong. It can be whatever. You send that in. There was a doctor a couple of years ago that his team didn't respond to a single records request from the federal government. And he ended up paying $700,000 in fines and penalties.
So you're saying send something, anything. Don't ignore it, because if you blow it off, you might forget the next day, and then that kind of thing you're
Oh
saying.
my gosh, yes. It's a
Just
big
wait till it
deal.
goes away. Maybe they had the wrong address. You mean
Not
that's
gonna
not the
go
right
away.
attitude, Chris? It's,
Please.
But
we'll
it's
forget
not.
about it.
Well, and it's interesting because I always ask when I'm teaching, it's like, how many of you look over records requests, doctors, before they leave the office? Like, one person out of 200 will go, I do. But everybody else doesn't. They just depend on their team to make sure it gets done. But, the average CA is only in a practice for 18 months. So each person is being trained. It's like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a
Uh-huh.
copy. Are
Yeah.
you ensuring that it gets done? Like, there needs to be a log. It came in on this day. This is the person who filled it. This is the person who double checked it, because records requests don't come in one at a time. They come in like five at a time, right?
Right.
You want to make sure that you sent the right record to the right person and didn't mix it up.
And then
Mhm.
you're like, oh no, that was during that period when I had that really bad CA doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So, no, without a doubt, this sounds like a very simple solution to a complex business matter for chiropractors out in the field. Kristi, awesome chatting with you. We could chat for another 30 minutes or an hour like we do every time we see you. But thank you for coming by. Do you have any final words for our listeners and our readers out there?
You know, check. I will say this. My final word would be, check out the strategic plan. Go to the website and look at it. Just see the amazing things that we're doing to work on behalf of the chiropractic profession. We should be the number one healthcare choice all around the world. There should
Hmm.
not be limitations that prevent patients from getting access to care. That's the fight we're fighting, and we're fighting it for every single chiropractor around the world. So please go check it out, see what's going on.
What's
You
the
know,
website to go look at that?
it's chiropracticfuture.org.
Okay.
A woman who understands, Kristi Hudson, certified professional compliance officer, vice president of business relationships at ChiroHealthUSA. Look for her November article wrapping up 2024, a year of growth and innovation for chiropractors, in the November issue of the American Chiropractor. Thank
That's
you to all the listeners and readers.
Thank you, Christy. Great to see you.
Thank
Kristi,
you.
thanks.